G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here with number 27 in the Warbles in the Wilderness series. The Ballad of Blood Red Rock. No trace remains today should anybody seek for where the gunyahs did cluster at Blackadder Creek. But when a white baby played where they used to be one day, might the spirits know him later when he cried along their way. Moonbeams shone upon the baby in his cot then screaming, shades were running past him, he could see them in their dreaming. Faces in the shapes within the shadows on the wall, portraits of the gone ones, noble and tall. He'll cry himself out if we just leave him there alone, his parents said through the wailing moan. And did the shadow people smile to the baby in the moonlight, try to pause to reassure him in his terror and his fright. Lonely baby grew to manhood, freely played in Redbank's water, never learning of the gone ones, never hearing of their slaughter. Until a day within the mangroves when he looked upon a midden, and then he knew that history lies underfoot and slightly hidden. He'd run north along the beach, a sporting jog beside the ocean, where of carnage and of murder he had never any notion, but always felt the headland trap him, sensing desperate need for speed, while climbing up the grassy cliff where once the shot men lay to bleed. He watched sandbars weaving up that stream where there used to be a river. The landscape crumbled while he watched, and hopeless insight made him shiver, while often paused upon the headland, thinking deeply quite a lot, never knowing he was sitting where the tribe's young men were shot. If chaotic souls of people murdered where the rock is still blood red are immortals anchored to their death sites, causing echoes in the head, then ponder how might shades affect him as he went within their space, and what connections did they make there, in the mind behind his face. You see, when troopers hit their camp, the strong young men did run away, but they did so rather slowly, for they had a plan that day. With kinfolk hid in creekside reeds and every trooper on his horse, those men took turns at standing target as they ran along their course. Going overland down river, they were pausing at each tree, brave decoys leading troopers off, or so it seems to me. For did not bold Ben Hall on a racing horse, with his 6 revolving guns, hunt one black police tracker barefoot, but could not hit nor catch him once? Yet when those runners, still unwounded, left their forest for the glade, then the troopers slung their guns and loosed the sabre's wicked blade. Of runners then, scarce 1 in 5 did cross the plain of grass alive, to scramble northwards up the beach, where hunt had turned to drive. They were winded, they were trembling at the bottom of the cliff, but they clawed uphill regardless, having seen what happened if. So the troopers sheathed the swords with their blades all clotted red, then fired volleys on command, both of shot and solid lead. Thus there were few indeed who did survive to cross the rocky headland and leave along that little beach their footprints in the sand. Their plan had been to swim the river just there at its mouth, yet even some who swam were killed by gunfire from the south. And blood from them did mingle then with that within the water, from scattered floating wounded men who dived aside from slaughter. Then with all the warriors dead and gone, those troopers coarse and rank, returned to the reeds doing murderous deeds, whose stains named the creek of Redbank. So take note and be aware of the gone ones there if you would linger longer, for history fair is screaming clear and loud for all to ponder, so that all who stand on stolen land, where once the life had meaning, might contemplate the terrible fate of the shades of Blood Rock dreaming. But when I was a little kid, playing in Redbank Creek, learning to sail my little boat, learning to hunt, nobody ever told me that Dad's holiday house was smack in the middle of a massacre site, or that I'd grown up on a crime scene. Ciao.